It's episode 9 of SMS Ages, and with Transbot, we've reached the final release of 1985. On the face of it, Transbot appears to be just another space shooter, but it has a surprising amount of history behind it. Transbot is actually the spiritual sequel to the earlier SG-1000 release, Orgus. They share very similar themes and concepts, i.e. they're both horizontal space shooters based upon the concept of mechs that transform into spaceships. Orgus is actually based upon the science fiction anime series Super Dimension Century Orgus, which in turn seems to be related to the earlier Macross anime. Now, I'm not an anime fan myself, so I have very little insight to share on the Orgus anime, but in short, it appears to be about a future society where two superpowers are at war and have developed dimensional weapons that, as the name suggests, damage both time and space. The primary character, Kai, is caught in the explosion of one of these dimensional weapons and is transported along with his mech, the Orgus, to a dystopian future where he has been hunted down. For such a basic game, Orgus has a surprising amount of story behind it, and to be fair, the game does actually capture it pretty well. The Orgus anime ended in 1984, which is probably why Sega decided to drop the tie-in and release Transbot, aka Astro Flash, as a standalone title when the game launched in Japan on December 22nd, 1985. It seems nobody could actually agree on a suitable title for the game though, as it got renamed again to Nuclear Creatures when it made its way to Brazil. I would have thought that Transbot was a pretty accurate name, what with the game featuring transforming robots, but evidently this name was not considered universal enough. Regardless of the name, the game proved to have enough enduring appeal to see a US release in 1986, a Sega card release throughout Europe in 1987, a standard cartridge release when the Master System Model 2 launched, and a rather groovy looking purple packaged re-release in Portugal in 1996. So 11 years between its first and final physical release. That's quite the feat for what is a very simple game. As already mentioned, the game is essentially a horizontal scrolling shooter. Perhaps the biggest change between Orgus and Transbot is that you can no longer swap between your mech and spaceship form at will. Your vehicle form is now based on your weapon type. You start off in your spaceship form with a standard gun that has unlimited ammunition, and periodically a transport truck drives by that you can shoot to release a weapon orb. If you collect the weapon orb, your weapon selector will start cycling through 7 available weapon choices, denoted by the letters A to G. Once you manually select the letter, the weapon will become active. Weapons C, E, and F cause you to transform into your mech form and provide either a wider spread of fire or a two-way fire, but the drawback, once you're in your mech form, you're a much bigger target, so much easier to hit. The remaining weapons keep you in your spaceship form, and special note should be paid to Weapon D, which is actually required to defeat certain enemies and without which you cannot proceed to the second level. Despite losing the Orgus license, Transbot does still have a story, and as you might expect, it's set in a post-nuclear war future. An artificial intelligence known as Daedalus has started to take over the planet, and it's up to you as the only person skilled enough to pilot the CA-214 ship to infiltrate the AI's base and defeat it. The story is set over 2 levels, with the first level being set above ground, with you searching for the entrance to the enemy's base, and a second level being set within the enemy's base itself. At the end of the second level, you face the main boss, which looks suspiciously like an AT-AT from Star Wars. If you do defeat the boss, instead of being greeted to an end sequence, you're instead warped back to level 1, and the game loops at a higher difficulty. So the game may have a story, but in truth, it's really a high score challenge. Transbot can come across as a very generic game, given its title and subject matter, but it's actually quite a solid experience that holds up reasonably well today. The presentation is quite nice, including some parallax scrolling on the first level, which was pretty uncommon for home consoles in 1985. There's also a decent selection of enemy types that scale in difficulty quite well as the game progresses. The game may be very short, and experienced shooter fans will easily complete the game loop in 5 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer, but it's fun to pick up and play every so often. It's certainly worth trying out given its ubiquity on the system. Transbot also made its way back into arcades in 1986, courtesy of Sega's System E hardware. Now, the System E hardware was essentially an arcade version of the Master System with slightly beefed up VDP. A rather unusual feature of this hardware was that the main CPU wasn't included on the motherboard but on the game cards. It's no surprise that several Master System games would make their way to the System E, with Transbot being joined by the likes of Fantasy Zone 2 and Opa Opa in future. The European System E release of Transbot was renamed Transformer, which I'm sure was in no way confusing with a certain toy brand from Hasbro. You may wonder why Transbot never got a sequel, given that it had such a long retail life. Well, it is actually possible that it did get a pseudo-sequel in the form of Arrow Flash, which was released on the Mega Drive in 1990. Now, it has never been confirmed if Arrow Flash is indeed a follow-up to Transbot, but it does share some notable similarity. Not only is the game similar to the Japanese title Astro Flash, but they feature similar game mechanics, i.e. again, the transforming mech team. In my opinion, I would say that Arrow Flash is part of the Orgus Transbot lineage, but what do you think? Why not share your thoughts in the comments below this video? And with that, we bring 1985 to a close. 1985 hasn't been the most stellar year for games for the Master System, but there have been some enjoyable experiences like Hang On and Teddy Boy, and the odd hidden gem like Pit Pot. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the games released on the Master System in 1985. If you'd like to see this series continue into 1986, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching SMS Ages. If you like this episode, then why not try some of the other episodes or other content on the channel, and perhaps like, subscribe and share to help spread the word.